Yeah, we back. We back. Now, last night I dropped a video entitled Senegal getting ready to kick France out. And I actually had a subscriber come into the comment section and push back against me. And in this video, I'm going to be responding to that comment. Take a look up on the screen. This person said, Africa don't got no real military. It's easy to say that Africa needs to do this or that behind the keyboard, but you're not in their situation. But I agree Africa should stand up, although they cannot back it up militarily speaking. Now, I want to address that while at the same time we can discuss, some geopolitical lessons we can take from this scenario. Now, before I get started, I just want to say we are living in the year 2024. It is not the year 1889. The days of two militaries standing in an open field and, charging at each other and marching on each other, that's a thing of the past. The current battlefield we are currently fighting is the war of propaganda, the war of diplomacy, the war of economics. And when you look at the nations in West Africa that have evicted the French and now also evicted the United States, they've done that without firing a single shot, without firing a single bullet, because warfare is leveraged on multiple battlefields. It's not just, grab your gun and march. No. The diplomatic war and the economic war is the current main theater of war in the current present day. But I want to examine his comment, right? Let's go back to his comment. Now, I'm assuming this is a black man. I don't know, but I'm going to treat it as if it was a black man that said this comment because we can take it as a lesson. I'm going to assume a black man is speaking to me. If this was a black man, we have to examine this mentality. And now we can understand why we have so many leaders and presidents and heads of state that don't feel they have what it takes to make certain political decisions on behalf of their people, because they don't believe in themselves and they don't believe that they can really stand alone and really stand tall in front of the adversary. This individual said that Africa don't got no real military. It's easy to say that Africa needs to do this and that, but you're not in their situation. They cannot back it up militarily speaking. Now, if this is a black man speaking to me, there's multiple things wrong with this. He's speaking in terms of Africa, and he is saying they. He is saying there. He's talking about African men as if they are a separate group of people from him. I don't speak, when I talk about Africa, if you notice, I don't say those people over there. No, I say my brothers over there, my folks over there, my family over there. So that right there is a red flag to me. When you are speaking on African men and you are saying they instead of saying us, and instead of saying we. So, that's a red flag to me. So, but like I said, I don't know if this is a black man. I don't know. This could be a whole white man. But regardless, I still want to address the topic anyway. So far, there have been 3 nations that have evicted the French military, and it may be a 4th in Senegal due to the video I dropped last night. And I want to talk about the different methods of warfare they used to make that happen without firing a single shot. First things first, African nations are sovereign nations. And as a sovereign nation, you can do whatever the fuck you want. I think that somewhat gets lost in these discussions when we talk about African nations. Sometimes we forget that as a sovereign nation, you can do whatever the hell you want to do. I think people forget that. So when a leader stands up and says, I know we signed a deal with you 10 years ago or 15 years ago, but I'm not really feeling that shit no more, bro. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel it. All right? Bet. These type of statements, it puts the Western nations in a tough spot because they frame themselves to be the democratic, the people that uphold democracy, and we are your allies. We are your traditional Western allies, and we are here to help you, and we are here to support your interests. That is the propaganda that they promote in the media. They promote all across the world. So when a sovereign nation says, I want to go in a different direction, if you are the so-called defender of democracy and human rights and freedom, then you have no choice but to respect their wishes, or else you're going to be a hypocrite against your own message. So that is a diplomatic way of getting the job done, because you weaponize the propaganda against the adversary. Oh, you say you're my friend? Oh, you're my ally, right? So as my ally, I hope you understand that I want to go in a different direction on behalf of my people. We got to understand, direct brute force military action is usually the final resort. That's the last resort, okay? And usually you need a pretext for that to occur. You need to justify your military intervention. You can't just wake up on a Tuesday and invade a country and start massacring civilians in the age of smartphone technology. It's not going down, bro. Even when you look at the intervention in Libya with Gaddafi, they were able to manufacture consent because the Western media had a 24-hour loop saying this man is a genocider. He's massacring civilians. He's massacring his people. We got to save the people of Libya. We got to save the people. The war was fought on the media before it was fought physically. The war was fought economically before it was fought physically. The sanctions came first. The media propaganda came first. And then once Gaddafi was weak enough, they came in guns blazing. So as you can see, Gaddafi had already lost the diplomatic war and the media propaganda war before he lost the physical war and ended up getting killed. But when you examine the present day situation, especially in West Africa, the Western nations, they have lost the media propaganda war. They're losing on that front. The black man is winning the propaganda war as it stands right now. The anti-French sentiment amongst the average citizen, especially in Francophone West Africa, is the highest it's ever been in over 100 years. There have been anti-French protests and anti-French demonstrations where damn near 20,000 people showed up at a time. And take a look up on the screen, you can see some of the images. There's been viral images of people coming to the protest with signs saying things like this. Take a look up on the screen. Death to France and her allies. There have been multiple times where the French embassy was surrounded during these anti-French demonstrations. There have been occasions where businesses owned by French citizens were attacked and ransacked. And even sometime last year, I remember the French government put out a top-level travel advisory for Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger saying, listen, don't no French citizen come over here. You know, it's dangerous over here. They might kill you over here. They have lost the propaganda war. They're losing the propaganda war. If you remember, when the president was overthrown in Niger, the French government was saying, we need to enforce democracy. We need to enforce the wishes of the people. Meanwhile, at the same exact time, it was nothing but a bunch of anti-French demonstrations happening all across the country. People showing up by the thousands, men, women, and children. And when that occurs, it puts the Western nations in a tough spot. Because it's one thing to be against a leader or be against a regime. But once the citizens of the nation rise up against you and say, fuck you, now what are you going to do? You're going to fight against the people? You're going to fight against the whole nation? You're going to kill the women? You're going to kill the babies? What you going to do? You're going to kill the babies on live television? No, you're not. No, you're not. You're going to get the fuck out the country. That's what you're going to do. And that's exactly what they did. Because due to the fact that they're already losing the propaganda war, if they decide to go brute force military action and start massacring civilians on live television, that plays in the favor of African nations because they can point at the Western governments and say, look at them. Look at these savages. Look at these barbarians. And for those of y'all that's been watching my channel, you already seen how Celeste Wallander, that high-ranking member of the Department of Defense in the United States, she said that the United States partnerships with African countries are essential for the United States to maintain their economic, political, and technological edge and power themselves up for the future. And let me tell you this, it's much more lucrative to be in peace. Warfare is expensive. Warfare is not good for business. Warfare is not good for corporations. Warfare is not good for commerce. It's much better to be at peace. How do you expect to set up shop and do business inside of a country when you are massacring civilians and committing crimes against humanity? They're going to ransack, they're going to attack your infrastructure. They're going to attack your businesses. They're going to kill your citizens. You're going to put your people at risk. So they take this into account when they make these decisions to leave the country. Sometimes it's better to retreat. It's better to leave instead of destroy everything altogether and burn the bridge altogether. Because sometimes we forget the foundation and the maintenance of these economies behind these Western countries is placed on the back of African nations. So they don't want to sever that relationship altogether. That's why when the government was overthrown in Niger, the United States capitulated and said they'll acknowledge the new government because they want to maintain their military interests in the region. They want to maintain access to the uranium in the region. Sometimes we think that we have no leverage in these political negotiations. We the ones with the uranium. We the ones with the oil and gas. We the ones with the cobalt. We the ones with the coltan. We the ones with the bauxite. We can shut these economies down with a flick of the switch. You talking to me about military capacity, but I'm talking about economic warfare, diplomatic warfare, the ability to bring entire economies down to their knees. That's why you seen the United States betrayed France when it came to Niger, because France was like, listen, I'm not acknowledging the military government in Niger. They overthrew the government. I'm not acknowledging them. The United States went against France and say, you know what, bro? Listen, listen, I got my drone base down there. Listen, the uranium down there. Listen, bro, you on your own, bro. I'm rocking with the new government. The United States left France out to dry because they weighed up their options on the scale and they say, you know what? It's more beneficial to me to maintain access to the uranium and to maintain access to the drone base instead of trying to ride for France. So they made an executive decision and decided to advance their own best interests. But unfortunately for them, in the end, they still got kicked out the country. In summary, what I'm trying to say is this. The economies of many of these nations are hinged on the fact that they have friendly relations with African countries. So for them to destroy those friendly relations, they will lose access to the things they need the most. So it's not simply who has the most military power. That's not the case. It's about who has the most effective propaganda. Because in order for the Western governments to take any military action, number one, they need a pretext. They need a reason to justify the intervention. Number 2, they need to manufacture consent amongst the people so that people don't fight back against you. You can't just wake up on a random Wednesday morning and invade a foreign country. No, the citizens are going to grab their weapons and start charging against you. We are living in 2024. It's not the year 1891. You see, back in the late 1800s, they could have done that. That's what they did. When the French invaded West Africa, they just marched in. They was killing little girls, killing little babies, killing women and elders and everybody in between. You cannot do that in the modern day. You cannot do that. It's going to be a disaster for you in the media. And going back to what he said about African nations not having strong enough militaries, that's also another reason why they've lost the propaganda war. Because for decades and decades, the Western nation said, you can only have military agreements with us. You cannot shop for weapons anywhere else. You cannot look to any other allies but us. And the Western governments have shown that they're ineffective in that arena. So how can you claim to be my ally, my military ally, when you don't let me have access to the latest military technology? You don't let me shop around for different partners and different weapons. You only say that I have to do business with you and you alone, but you don't equip me with the latest technology to really boost my military capacity. That actually plays into the favor of African nations when they point towards the Western government and say, look at these scammers and these con artists who claim they're here to help us, but they're here to scam us and exploit us and hold us back. That's another reason why the anti-French sentiment is so strong in West Africa, because unlike previous generations, we have access to the information now. But basically what I'm trying to say is this, man. Warfare is fought on multiple levels. Warfare is fought on multiple levels. And unless you have a valid and justifiable pretext, you're not going to see a brute force military invasion happen anywhere without being able to justify the military intervention. You have to have a reason to do what you are doing. You can't just come in and start killing people for no reason, bro. It's not happening, bro. But in order for you to do that, you need to manufacture consent amongst the people. And you need to do that by winning the propaganda war, which at this point in time, the Western governments are losing the propaganda war by a landslide. I mean, the score is like 10,000 to 900. I mean, Jesus Christ. Like I said, we're living in 2024, right? So it's not 1955, meaning that we can influence the narrative now. It's not back in the day when it was only the New York Times and the Washington Post and the goddamn, Le Monde newspaper and all this shit. No. We are living in the era of citizen journalists. We are living in the era of smartphone technology, where information can travel at the speed of light. So as soon as any military decides to touch down and start killing people and committing crimes against humanity, we're going to have the images, we're going to have the videos, and that is going to play in our favor in the propaganda war. And also keep in mind, these multinational corporations have a lot of influence in politics. So they're going to tell their government to stand down. Stand down because it's going to be bad for business if you push the button. Stand down. Make some concessions. Stand down because we need to do business. We got to get money. So stand down. These multinational corporations themselves will tell their own government to stand down for the sake of commerce. So listen, it's not just the Western governments that have leverage. The black man has leverage too. If the black man didn't have leverage, they wouldn't have packed up their bags and got the fuck out the country. So stop looking at yourself as being so small and, I'm just a tiny African. I can't fight against the mighty white man. No, you have leverage. You have leverage in negotiations. You have influence. You have power. You have things they need to sustain their economy and their empire. Yes, in fact, their empire was built off of our labor, off of our sweat, off of our blood. So at the end of the day, we have things they need. We can bring their economies to their knees with the flip of a switch. They know that. That's why they invest so much money in making sure they always have a regime in place that is friendly to their interests, because they know if any intelligent, patriotic black men get into power, that's going to be extremely dangerous for their economies. But anyways, man, I want us to really understand that warfare is multifaceted. Stop looking at the white man as unstoppable and untouchable. You have a lot of influence yourself as a black man. You have a lot of leverage yourself as a black man. You have a lot of influence yourself as a black man. So listen, man, like I said, we got things they need. You heard Celeste Willander. She said it herself. Partnerships with African nations are essential for the United States to maintain their economic, political, and technological edge. That is what Celeste Willander said, a secretary in the Department of Defense for the United States government. That's what she said, not me. So you have leverage. You have power. Stop being scared of the white man. You know what I'm saying? Stop. I guarantee Western nations would much rather be on friendly terms with African nations instead of being on hostile terms with African nations, because with hostility, it's hard to do business during times of hostility. It's hard to get money during times of war. So warfare is never going to be the primary option. It's going to be diplomatic warfare, economic warfare, media propaganda warfare before anything else. And as it stands right now, the black man is winning by a landslide in West Africa. Anyways, man, it's your boy Neferkari. That's Celine back in the Billy. Yes, indeed. Cash App up on the screen, and I'm gone. Peace.
Reincarnated, I'm back in original fashion. ration. I left on a horse and came back in that ass, and I left with abundance and came back to famine. We used to be pyramids, now we be rapping. Look how the mighty have fallen. Used to be running, now we be walking. When you be cooning, that's when they applauded. Selling your soul, your sons and your daughter. Gotta come up in this shit, they stuck in the mix. Really, my heart it be breaking. That's why I'm stacking that paper and handle my business. Pass it down in generation. Talking about money and power and building a nation. That's a deadly combination. Never be watching the TV, they pushing agendas, falsifying information. Know they got malice intentions. Step in the room and I'm feeling the tension. Enemy watching, he blocking my vision. Get for the check cause I need my redemption. Building my kingdom, I need it protected. Ready for war like a young Money Congo. Never decided the team is the motto. Up in the crib and I'm whipping up waffles. Up in the crib and I'm smoking gelato. I'm chilling, I'm taking my pain and make it ambition. I'm blessed by the gods, but I ain't religious. I came for the power, they came for the bitch. They making no hourly wage, I got business. This is an art, and they could never be taught. Selling my soul, I can never be bought. Play with my money, I see you ain't caught. Run to the check and I do it for sport. Babylon falling, I go to the source. Packing my luggage and go overseas. Shorty be with me and she so elite. Shorty be chocolate, I'm calling her Hershey. Secret intelligence probably gon' murk me. Don't fuck with brands, cause nigga I'm Haitian. Say the wrong shit and get smack in their faces.